Alright, so, hello everybody. This is the More Knowledge Show, coming to you live from a garage outside in Alabama, in the United States of America. Today is July 26th, I think. Yeah, it's 26. I can't check right now. But it's July 26, 2019. It's fairly good. It's not that hot out here, so hopefully my smartphone will not, the the processor will not shut down like it did the other time when I tried to record out here, because it can get pretty hot. Yeah, it can. Like it's the summertime, and sometimes the temperature it goes up. All right. Anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about before we get into our topics, I don't even know why I'm saying this. In fact, no, this is important. Okay, so we are basically slowly, over time, we're going to start kind of changing, all right, we're going to be changing the image of the More Knowledge Association. So, originally it was kind of a joke, or just kind of a thing to just grab some attention. And there's nothing really wrong with that. There are people out there who basically there are extremely successful people who make a ton of money just simply doing things to grab people's attention. But over time, I realized that it's not that much fun just to go around saying stupid stuff just to grab people's attention. Or, well, I didn't really think any of it was stupid. It's just the way I framed it. So we're gonna be changing some stuff up on the website. But it's for example, about the stuff, I still believe that the Earth is flat. Well, no. I do not know that the Earth is flat. I simply support the flat Earth movement. I used to tell people that I was 100% sure the Earth was flat. So we're just gonna kind of be changing some things. So maybe we will be taken a little bit more seriously. But certain things will never change. Like the fact that I doubt that the shape of the Earth, that is not going to change. But I just want to let you guys know. So if you see us start to change our tone with some of the stuff, you understand that it's not like nothing has really changed. We just want the new people coming in to not look at something and then just completely be turned away by it. Because sometimes when people, if they click on a website, the first thing they see is that the Earth is 100% flat, and then I have somehow evidence for that. People are not even going to continue clicking or scrolling down. Plus, I have no evidence about that, and that's not the type of brand I want to build. So anyway, I just wanted to say that if you notice over time as our website starts to change. But So, anyway, the first topic that we're going to talk about today is the earnings season. It's been going on. The earnings season is basically it lasts about 3 weeks. It happens 4 times every year, and all these companies, they report their earnings. They report their, well, not just earnings, all of their information about their performance over the past quarter, and it can give you a lot of insight. It changes the stock market. It influences stock prices along the short term. It can tell you about some trends that are going on, and it can really give you a good idea of what's going to happen in the future. Because with these earnings, not only do they report what happened in the past quarter, they also report what they expect the performance will be in the upcoming quarters. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that, I think I said something about this earlier, how going into this earnings season, the expectations were pretty low, but the market wasn't quite pricing that in. Like, they were expecting earnings to drop about 3%, and I was saying how the markets were kind of just ignoring that. We were hitting all-time highs, and the earnings were about to, were expected to be pretty bad. So now that earnings season has come, I think it's pretty safe to say that earnings have topped expectations. Now, we were actually right in the middle of it, so far they've topped expectations. Right now, I think if it continues on the same trend, we should see like an increase of about 1%, or it could just be flat. So not very much increases year over year, but it's going to be an improvement over the original expectation of earnings that are declining. That was the original expectation, and so far we've seen an improvement. But I think a lot of people, I think originally the markets, of course, like I said, we're not really pricing in earnings to be like a 3% decline, and because it just was kind of flat, I don't really expect this to it's been kind of it's been up and down. You had some up days, some down days, but I don't expect it to be like a huge thing that will push the market in one direction or the other. But despite it being over expectations, I do see some worries. First of all, earnings, the expectations that companies are reporting for the earnings in the upcoming quarters have not been great. All right, and they basically all said the same reasons. Trade uncertainties, slowing economies. It's like while a lot of companies have topped their expectations for this quarter, a lot of them either are not revising up their expectations for the upcoming quarters, or they're revising them down, and that's a bad sign. But what we have seen is that the few companies that are reporting pretty terrible earnings are companies that are are manufacturing companies, car companies. For example, this company called Caterpillar, they produce machinery and equipment and stuff like that. Okay, so of course when there's a growing, expanding economy, people are going to be buying more machinery and equipment, and Caterpillar is a pretty big player in that. Caterpillar, their earnings are pretty awful. Their revenues, earnings, both missed expectations, and then for the full year they cut down their expectations for their company's performance. And kind of what I see happening is right now the slowdown is mainly taking place in the small part of the economy, which is like manufacturing, which is only 12% of the economy. Agriculture, which isn't a big part of the economy. Cars, like automakers, it's also a pretty small part of the economy. Some transports, but it hasn't quite spread. But if you look at the other companies, while they have been reporting, like pretty much every other company, while they have been reporting pretty strong earnings, their expectations for the future have been going down. So what that tells you is that it's going to start spreading. The all the bad stuff in this small area, it's going to start spreading. So what I take from this earnings season so far isn't that things are improved than expected. I think what I take from it is right now the main problems are concentrated, but there's pretty good indication that it's not going to be nearly as concentrated going down the road. And the next few earnings seasons, we're going to see the slowdown start to take place over a broad variety of companies. And so like I was saying, right now earnings are kind of up and down. The way the market's reacting to it, some days are up, some days are down. They're not having a huge impact on the markets right now. The markets are more focused on what central banks are doing. They're focused on things like trade, the stuff like that, the stuff that they pretty much have been focused on for a long time. But down the line in the future, and when the slowdown starts to take place overall across a broad variety of companies, then we're really going to see earnings be a major drag on the markets. And yeah, we're going to see things really start to take place that we've been talking about for a long time. So yeah, so right now, the big thing that's going on right now is, well, I wouldn't really say, I don't know, I guess I still think central banks are the top of the thing that's driving the markets, but all these tech companies, these huge tech companies like Facebook, Alphabet, Amazon, they've come under scrutiny by the FTC and the Justice Department and the president and pretty much every single politician. All of the entire United States Capitol is coming down upon these tech companies. And this is something that's causing a lot of worries, because of course these tech companies have been the main drivers of the stock market gains. And of course, if they end up getting hit with all these new regulations, it could hurt their companies, it could hurt their outlooks, and that could hurt the overall stock market. But anyway, so a large thing that a lot of them are talking about is these tech companies, they're too big, they're anti-competitive, they're hurting competition, and they're hurting the consumer. I would say all those things have somewhat truth to it, but I don't think that they're really focusing on the real problem. And the real the real problem is what these companies are doing when it comes to like privacy and our personal information. I do not really see the problem as the companies are too big, because just because a company is large, like, it does not exactly mean that the company has to be cheating or has to be doing something to hurt competition. A company could just be a very successful company. You've seen examples throughout history where a company would basically control a lot of a market because it's better than everyone else. That's very possible. So to say just because it's very big and we're going to split them up, I don't think that would really solve the problem. That will just split them up and may make people happy. It may be good for it may be good politics, because I think people would like that. But I'm not sure if splitting up these companies are really going to tackle the main problem, which is that companies are using people's personal information in ways that we do not understand. But all this talk is something that I do not think will last, because when you look at the president, Donald J. Trump, he is attacking these tech companies, but I do not think he's going to. He's one of the top attackers of these tech companies. There's people on pretty much everywhere coming down on them, but he's a pretty big opponent. He said like Amazon is not paying their taxes. Of course, he's attacking Facebook for censoring his supporters, supposedly. But I do not think that he's eventually going to tell these people to hold back. Because when the election gets near, he's going to want the stock market to be going up, not down. If he keeps this up with these regulatory pressures on these big tech companies, that's going to hurt the stock market. And right now, the stock market is his main tool, his main thing that he has that he can says the economy is supposedly strong. If the stock market was down, he would have he wouldn't have anything else to point to. He needs a rising stock market. That's his claim. Every time the stock market hits an all-time high, you see him tweeting. I think this is the same thing with the trade war. He's going to try to get something done. He's going to try. I think he will try to get something done with his tech stuff. They're gonna come out with something. They're gonna fine them. Facebook has already been fined. They're gonna fine them more. They're gonna make them apologize. They may pass some law, but it's gonna be of no real significance. They're not gonna pass anything significant that's going to hurt these companies, because right now, eventually the political pressures will take over, and Trump knows that he needs a rising stock market. So I think that a lot of this is just noise, but I think that this is important because you need a good level of regulations on companies. Because what happens when you don't have regulations on companies, yes, you may see rising earnings and strong performance, but they're doing that at the same time they're also hurting their consumers. So people getting hurt by having their personal information being used in wrong ways, that kind of offsets the improved performance from these companies. So what you want growth from companies to be a result of serving the human race in a good way, I guess you would say. And if you don't have the proper regulations set in place, the growth could come from a bad place. But on the other hand, if you have too much regulations, companies can't grow, companies can't innovate, and then that would also be bad. But there's some people who say all regulation is bad. We should completely get rid of all regulations. And look, if you got rid of all regulations, if you look at it on paper, it may seem like the economy is great, but there'll be a lot of structural problems that would eventually come back to hit it pretty bad. Like, same thing with the finance, all these financial institutions. If you get rid of the regulations, it may help their performance in the short term, but over time they're going to start doing a bunch of highly speculative stuff, and then they're going to fail, and then everyone else is going to have to save them once again. So it's important to have a good level of regulations, because right now there are no rules against what these tech companies are doing when it comes down to with people's privacy. But all this focus on, are they being anti-competitive? I think that's kind of it. I don't think it's going to really lead to much of anything. I think that it's going to kind of be used as a political win to say that we solved the problems, but nothing is really going to be solved. These tech companies, they're going to be fine. They're going to continue to make money. They're going to continue to do what they've been doing, and in the short term, the stock market may get hit by this, but I think these big tech companies, they're going to be fine. Within a couple months, all of this noise is going to be gone, and the stock market is going to be up once again. And another thing I want to talk about is kind of also another thing about the tone of this company, because a lot of the stuff we talk about, we always kind of make it seem like the world is coming to an end within like the next few days. Like there's gonna be a big crisis within a year or a week, and everything's gonna end. It's gonna be over, and I do not want people to think like that, because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of, you go on the internet, there's a million stuff out there, people saying that the world is gonna end, and they pretty much say the same exact stuff every single time. That's not what I'm saying. All right, we could be fine 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 years, even 10 years down the line. What I'm simply saying is the system that we have right now is not sustainable. And sometimes within our lifetime, there's going to be a big crisis, a big reset that's going to basically collapse the whole thing. And you know, that's easy to say. That's very easy to say. It's very easy to say, yeah, over like 100-year period, something's going to happen. Well, this is not just going to be any something. This is going to be much worse than anything that's happened in our country's history, because people acknowledge that crises, like economic crises, can happen, but people think that, you know, we have the solution to these things. What I'm saying is there's going to be a crisis. It's going to be big, and our current system is going to lose all its power to solve that crisis, and the result is going to be an uprising, a revolution. All right, this has happened many times before. So, you know, the country, they're irresponsible. They act in a way that's unsustainable. There's increasing. The problems start to build up, and then eventually a revolution happens. Sometimes the result of the revolution is good. Sometimes the result of the revolution is bad. If you look at Russia, you know, they had a lot of problems. They had a revolution, but the result of the revolution was the Soviet Union, and a lot of more people died and starved to death as a result of that. But of course, there's other revolutions where the result was great. So what I'm kind of warning about is that I think that there is a small group of people who know that this is inevitable, and they're preparing for the revolution. They already know that a revolution is going to happen, and when the collapse does happen, they're already going to be prepared to step in and take over, and we're not going to know what's going on. We're going to be completely lost. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to rally people up to let them know that we got to prepare. So when things does happen, could be 20 years from now, but we are ready to fight back and hopefully rebuild this civilization. And it may not be the same civilization before, but hopefully we can make it better. Because the truth is, there's been civilizations that have stretched nearly the entire globe, and they all came to a point where they collapsed. It's going to happen here. And depending on what takes its place will say a lot for the final years of our life, because I think that we are going to live to see it. So, you know, I just want to let people know, like, I'm not predicting that next year this is going to happen. I don't think it will happen. I don't think we should underestimate how long this thing can be kept going, because people have been predicting for a long time that the whole thing would end. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's unsustainable. In all aspects, it's unsustainable. You can look at it on many different levels. What's going on is not going to last. You can already see some cracks. It may take a while, but it's inevitable. You know, within the next 100 years, it's going to come crashing down, and we are going to see it happen. And we will probably be at the center of the response to that crash. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know about that. So hopefully you've watched the video to this point. If you haven't, then then you can't hear what I'm saying right now. But anyway, we should have an article coming out soon. School starts back up in like 2 weeks, so yeah, that should be fun. Anyway, I'm out. Have a great day. I'll get better at this talking stuff. I'm much better at talking in front of people than I am at talking in front of a camera, because this is honestly kind of weird, you know, because it's kind of quiet out here. No one, you know. But anyway, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon, real soon. All right, bye, 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 bye.